Hey gang, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew. You may notice today I'm sporting my homebrew gear that I've got and drinking from my D&D homebrew cup that are available. You'll see them at the bottom of the video. And this you may want to get soon because I'm going to change this. I think that might be a little large, but that makes this version a super collector's item because I haven't yet, put these as gifts to my, relatives and friends and whatnot. But anyway, that it's kind of fun to have that. Today's video is about doors and how they can make your world more interesting and exciting for players to explore. Because if you think about the purpose of doors and, privacy, but also security, sometimes both, these are elements that when you are constructing this for your homebrewed world, or even if you have a module or some, adventure path or whatever, everything's described for you. When you think about doors and how they're operating, you present them to the players in such a way, and you present the creatures or NPCs or whatever that are working in your world behind or, in front of those doors, that becomes really compelling. So I've talked about secret doors, and that's another video. I'll put a link up here, but this is just doors in general. And it's very interesting because years ago I was playing in a D&D thing, 2nd edition, I believe. And one of the players was a newer player to D&D in general. And we were going through some dungeon and he said to me, "I hate doors." And I'm like, "You hate doors? Why?" And he goes, "Because whenever you see a door, it's nothing but trouble. There's something behind the door. You open this door, you have to listen. Do I hear anything? Is it locked? Is there a trap? Is there going to be some plate in front of it that collapses?" He said, "Whenever I see doors in this game, I know something bad is going to happen." Well, of course, this isn't true all the time. It's partially true, right? Because many times doors, nothing significant happens. They're just there and you open them or whatever. But he had a point in terms of a new player's perspective of the world of D&D. Oh, doors, they signify something. And this is true both in-game and outside in terms of you thinking about this as a game mechanic. Because there's all sorts of things in terms of structures, windows, hallways, the ceiling or the basement or whatever. But doors have a special function, very important function in terms of dividing those areas, right? Doors provide access to areas in a way, for instance, windows don't. They also, as I say, provide that security. They prevent people from entering an area or leaving an area, so that even though they don't necessarily signal trouble in your world every time they appear, doors have a almost totemic function in the game, and that's what makes them so interesting as a piece of your geography. Because doors are designed to allow access to some enclosed area, to either allow access only to a person with a key or knows how to, open that door, and deny access to those that want to get inside or, as I said, back out. And as players, we see doors as potentially an opportunity, right? If we get inside that door, whatever is in there, we have access to. But we also recognize the power of denial in a closed door. Any kind of closed door, and especially one that's locked, right? If you have a doorway and there's no door, you can just go in and out. No privacy, I can just look in and see what's there. But also, I'm not that, there's no denial of access, so what valuable stuff would be there, or anything that would have long ago been picked over, whereas a door that's locked with some elaborate trap, if I do get through that door, whatever is there, and again, this totemic power of it must be something valuable if they put this crazy lock on here, or they have this trap or something, and so I'm expecting some kind of reward or something when I go through that expectancy of opportunity. And these are the signifiers that made that, that new player so long ago who hated doors, he was like, these are trouble. But for experienced players, you see doors, you think, okay, how do we get through this door? What doors look like, right? Where they are within the framework of it. Are they an entrance or exit? Are they something interior? All of these are signifiers to experienced players as to what they might expect when they try to open this door, which is why they are such a fruitful topic for discussion. But, let's just look at an example. Let's say the player characters are traveling through some long-lost dungeon, right? They've discovered an entrance, a hole in the ground or something. They're the first one to walk these halls in maybe hundreds or thousands of years. And they're going down the hallway, and it ends in a door. Now, whether it was old-school D&D or 5e that I'm running today, In this process, I am describing to the players the hallway, the sights, the sounds, the smells, anything about this, the air quality, whatever, as they approach this door. And whether they ask me or not, I always like it when they say, what does the door look like? I describe it. Is it a wooden door? Is it banded with metal? Is it an iron door, itself purely of metal? What is the condition? Does it look like it's being used? Again, they're looking down at the ground for any tracks. Let's say it's totally dusty. It hasn't been, open for who knows how long. And it's an iron door with a, very impressive looking lock. That tells the player that something, this door was constructed to be a very difficult barrier for entrance to this room and potentially exit if, for instance, there's no corresponding lock on the other side of the door. And then, of course, listening at the door, something like this, the abandoned dungeon, probably there's nothing there, or if it is there, it's, some construct or something like a gargoyle that doesn't make noise, really, it's just waiting. And then you have the classic checking for traps. If you have a rogue type character or something, we used to do gags on an abandoned dungeon. This wouldn't be as much, but we'd put, coat the doorknob with contact poison. Again, the pit trap in front of it, or the pressure plate or something falls on you. All this kind of stuff. And you're looking out for this. Once you've had experience with this a few times, you know to be careful. And of course, if it's locked and you don't have the key and you don't have anybody that can necessarily pick the lock or open it, you can always try to break it down. But how much strength does that take? If it's a wooden door, much easier. Banded with metal is going to be a higher DC or whatever you're using in your system. An iron door set in there is going to be very difficult to break down. And even if you can, even if you've got chisels or equipment to break into this door, you are going to make a tremendous amount of noise, both to anything that's inside the room, but again, it's echoing through these hallways. Anything that's here is like someone is in this dungeon because they are pounding away at this door, determined to get inside. And again, this becomes really important. If it's the only, way to get into other areas, some specific area of a dungeon, the players are going to be focused on this. So doors serve as this gatekeeping device, both in terms of the environment the players are in, but also in terms of the adventure path, as it were, that they're going to take in your world. When you're thinking about, I'm making doors, you're creating a dungeon, you're creating doors that go to different rooms or other hallways or whatever, and you're thinking, the players are going to either want to go through this door or they're going to try to figure out another way if, for instance, they can't solve a trap, they don't want to break it down. That's going to change the flow of the adventure, where they're going to go. And again, are you going to have a bottleneck? You have to go through this incredibly deadly trap door. You can't get anywhere, all you've gone around, or there's some critical area in the dungeon. It's a gatekeeping device for the story that the players are doing, such that unless they absolutely have to, they may just ignore that. They may not want to take that risk. So you've got to remember that because you are blocking them with this door. So it's obvious that you think about what are the sort of doors I'm going to put in the various areas of a dungeon or keep or some structure that I'm building. But it's also important to have these in mind if you're describing the doors in a pre-made module that you might be using or adventure. You'll notice in text sometimes they'll say stuff like, all the doors are considered closed and locked in this dungeon unless specified otherwise. And then they go into descriptors about which doors are, broken or, open or whatever. They will also say things like, when you open this door, if you walk away, does it automatically close? And so that information is really important when these designers are putting together a game, because they know the function of doors, how much they control traffic in terms of the structure and in terms operationally where the players are going. So they're going to set those parameters there for their doors, locked and closed, let's just say, or all the doors shut automatically if you don't spike them. We had that problem all the time. Or the doors have, silent triggers, warning triggers the players don't hear. Or let's say a super elaborate trap that they think that they've caught, and they open it and it seems like nothing went off. Well, it's some silent alarm system. And this sort of thing, that operate. Now, again, you're going to put that's a working dungeon or something that's, a long lost tomb. Even if that was still there, who's it going to warn? So you're building these doors, and as I said, security and privacy are two primary functions of doors. So if you have a front or back door to some structure, that tends to be a security door. That's a door that opens, has locks on either side of the door. And typically it's a very well-built door. It's solid. It can't just be broken in. It has a bolt lock. Sometimes multiple doors. Think of people who have those security doors on their houses that are like an iron grate that comes open, then you open the actual door. And it often has a small window on top that you could just see out of, or maybe you'll remember the speakeasy windows where you pull it open and can shut it back. An apartment door will often have a little eye hole on it where you can see who's out there. But all of this is intended, this is a security door that prevents people from just accessing my house or my structure. Then you have privacy doors, which are things like bedrooms and bathrooms. And, if you have a public bathroom, it'll have a lock on the inside of the door. Oftentimes we don't do this for private, bathrooms or bedrooms, just because if you have little kids or something, they go in the bathroom and get locked in there. You can't get them out. Now, you also have doors with only a lock on the outside, and this is sort of a storage door or a prison door. And a storage door is just, whether it's a broom closet or a shed or something, or whether it's a bank vault, right? It's a door where you have a key. You can only access that room, but it doesn't have one from the other side. No one's going to be staying in there or anything. And that can be real flimsy. Like I have a shed in my backyard. It has a pretty strong door, but if you really wanted to get in, you can get in, as opposed to a bank vault. Right? That is the ultimate in a secure door, and something you could have, the palace treasury is going to have that kind of a door on it. So the entrances and exits to your dungeons or your keeps or any kind of structures, right, I think are going to be very secure. They're going to have means to go lock them from both inside and outside. But there'll be plenty of other doorways in areas, whether it's a dungeon or a structure someone lives, that maybe are less secure. Bedrooms or living quarters, probably they might have a lock from the inside, but not access from the outside. You also have prison rooms in a dungeon downstairs. Prison rooms, of course, locked from the outside, no access. And what's important here is that usually either no privacy, that's why they use bars, because the jailers can come and see what the prisoners are up to in the various cells at any moment. 24/7, no privacy. You might have some solitary confinement cells or something where you just have this kind of thing. But oftentimes they want to be able to see every corner of that room, because prisoners who have all the time in the world will be plotting their escapes. And if they know you can't see it just through the door, it makes it easier. A door to a kitchen area might be swinging doors, right? So that you can easily, if you're carrying trays of food, get in and out of this room. But it also kind of prevents the noise coming out. Because here's another thing with noise. Part of that privacy is to keep noise out. Proust, the famous author, had a cork-lined room with a cork-lined door because he didn't want to hear the sounds of the street or his servants or, other people in his house when he was busy writing his masterpiece. So a bedroom door in a rich person's castle or something might be heavily built with padding or something to keep the sound of the hoi polloi away. And the size and appearance of doors gives us clues as to what might lie behind them. So let's say you have this vast throne room. It's 100 feet long and 50 feet wide. It's got statues of old kings, and then there on the throne at one end on a raised dais, the king himself. And this is the room that he, sees his subjects who are, supplicating and asking him for favors, or, the commanders of his army, all this kind of thing. Well, the doors on this, I would imagine, might be double doors, first of all, heavily decorated, and then they might be 20 feet high and that wide, such that when they open, you could have a whole retinue of people streaming into this throne room to see the king. And these are things to put on the throne room doors, even if they're long abandoned. Have elaborate carvings. It gives you an opportunity to maybe give the players some information of the carvings on this door. Make it clear that these things, maybe they, even after all this time, they're so well built that they just swing open, soundlessly, right? Whereas other doors, when you open them, make noise, right? And this is the thing, even if it's unlocked, it makes a noise. And you tell that to the players, and experienced players might go, ooh, hope, they'll listen, see if anything heard that. But again, these doors might be ruined, right? They might be at an angle because it's been so long, or this place was looted and they were smashed, which tells the players something else. Whereas the door to a 5x5 storage closet, probably just a wooden door, very simple. Might have a lock on it. You have supplies, you don't want people stealing them. And then again, if something is now living there in a long abandoned dungeon, and this is just all it could find, it might have disabled that outdoor lock, or maybe there's no key is long lost, but it's going to put something on the inside because this is where it lives. It's now the entrance to its home. The other thing about doors is if it's a working structure, let's say it's a keep, that people live in and has a dungeon that's still being used, the doors are going to be in good shape, working order. The cells, the bars in the cells are going to be in decent shape. Guards come and test them once in a while. But in a long abandoned dungeon, many of the doors will have suffered the ravages of time. They're barely on their hinges, or even they're stuck. This is another thing. Over time, they've never been opened, or they've calcified or warped with changes in the ground has shifted or whatever. Now the players have to smash their way in because the door just doesn't work. If a dungeon has been taken over by new residents, goblins found some tomb that's long abandoned, wasn't haunted by undead. Now they're using this. They may have created crude doors because the other ones didn't work and they smashed them off, and now they have like wooden things, or even like twigs and sticks and stuff they've put together to make doors. And that tells the players something about this place, because doors that don't work are still totemic in that something either that's been long abandoned, therefore the door doesn't work, because you'd keep it in good order, right, if you were staying there, or new things have come and put up these crude doors. So you got that condition along with the purposes of a door, security and privacy. And the thing is, once your players get used to looking at doors to get this information, whether it's just intuitive, they ask you this or whatever, or you tell them in your descriptions, they start to have a sense of what's going on in your world. They get a sense that their active investigation of things helps them succeed, in their efforts to explore and loot and to find back entrances or whatever to give them advantage in some kind of battle situation. So if the players find they're in a cave complex and suddenly they see a door that's been built in this cave complex, that's a lot of information. Something built this here to prevent access. It's got, inside and in and out kind of locks, or they'll find that out when they break it down. But they know if they do break this down, something potentially is going to come. This is no longer just some abandoned cave complex or, a bear in it or something. And when you understand the totemic functions of doors, all that it implies when you design a dungeon or cave complex or keep or whatever, you take those sort of clues and whatnot and integrate them into the doors that you decide to put in the various rooms, structures, or, cavern complexes as well. Because that guy way back when, that new player, he understood just from playing the game that doors represented a decision matrix, right? Which is just a fancy way of saying obstacle. And that's a whole nother topic that, might be in another video. But in the meantime, hopefully that will help you think about doors that you're putting in, the dungeons and structures that you design, but also when you're running a module in terms of the descriptions, in terms of understanding the module, what's important and what's not. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always looking for more. Leave me some comments. I love to hear about it. This topic, doors in D&D, but any others you might think of. But most importantly, my friends, keep playing an RPG game, whichever one you choose, and tell somebody else about it.